managed to grab the most beautiful Helen Chamberlain.
No,
and
she's Spud.
And Spud, of course, as well. We've just come out of the Wet Nose event, so we're all a bit tearful and a bit emotional. And Helen was absolutely fabulous on the stage and told us about the story behind Spud. So would you like to tell the viewers again about it?
Well, Spud was one of the lucky ones because he was handed into a rescue centre when he was 8 months old. An elderly couple had bought him as a puppy. It's a Jack Russell Terrier, and 8 months later they realised that they couldn't control him, they couldn't handle him. He was a massive, I look at him now, but he was a big pest, believe me, he was a big pest. He needed lots of exercise, but luckily they took sense and handed him over. No worries. They took him to a rescue centre and said, it's been a long day, there was a lot of wine on the table. That's all I'm saying. She'll probably come back that way. Alright, so yeah, Spud's owners took sense and they took him along to a rescue centre and said, will you please find him the right home, because ours isn't. We pretty much live on a farm, so he's out and about all day, noodling about with chickens and stuff in the field, so he's fine. But the ones I've rescued before, from the same centre I got him from in Devon, I picked up an old terrier, an old Jack Russell. I called him Elvis because his back legs used to shake all the time. And he was an old boy, but I had him 10 years, so I think he must have been nearly 20 when he snuffed it a couple of years ago. But the one that I took on from an online rescue centre, where I was following his thread, and he was just a stray, they thought he was about 12, then his owners came forward, they'd gone on holiday and left him with the teenage children, and he got lost and they hadn't bothered to look for him, so he'd been in the pound. And the thing is, people don't realise that dogs get 9 or 10 days in the pound, and if they're not claimed, they're put to sleep.
I didn't know that.
So a lot of rescue centres will take the dogs from the pounds and try and find somewhere. And this dog was in foster and they were trying to home him. And the owners came forward and said, yeah, he's our dog, we were on holiday, they got lost, that's why he's been there for a week. And they said, we'll arrange to get him back to you. And they went, no, he's better off where he is. We don't want him anymore. We bought him as a puppy for our 3-year-old daughter. She's 21 now, can't be bothered with him. So it meant the dog was 18. Worse than that, which I didn't say on the stage because I'd taken up far too much of somebody else's time.
You hadn't.
But worse than that was, they said they didn't want him because they had 2 other dogs at home. We need the authorities, we need to get the authority that if somebody doesn't want one dog, they can't have others because their other dogs were younger.
Absolutely.
So they threw out the 18-year-old and he had no issues. There was nothing wrong with him at all. He was a tiny little bit piddly every now and again, but he's 18.
But I can't understand, because after all that time, you're going to be part of the family.
So I drove to Leicester the day after and fetched him from a woman who was fostering. Fostering is so important as well, so important. A lady who had 5 Westies was just fostering this big fat old terrier, and I just drove up and fetched him, and he just had a warm basket for the last 2 years of his life, just wagged his tail, ate his dinner, got on with it, and he was no trouble, no bother. So, and I already had 2, so don't think that you haven't got room. Don't think you can't do it, because you can. Get an old one. Or foster, because I've done that as well.
Yeah.
You think you can't give them back?
I know, I was
but
going
you
to say.
You can.
Okay, Helen says you can, so it must be true.
Yeah, and I'm the kind of person that the second I look at a dog, I say, no, you're not going anywhere, you can live with me forever. But I've successfully done it 3 times now, fostered a dog, and been able to give it up to the right owners.